Every day at 5:30 a.m., Jeremy makes himself a cup of coffee. Still weary-headed, he remembers flashes of his dreams, but in an instant, the caffeine kicks in and it's back to reality. He puts down the mug and begins his long commute to work. After clocking in, he navigates his way around the maze of cubicles, engaging in mundane small talk before finally reaching his desk. The highlight of Jeremy's workday is the post-lunch cigarette, the only time he gets to zone out for a bit and wonder how he got into this rabbit hole of a job. The good news about Jeremy's story is that he's not real. He's a fictional character. The bad news about Jeremy's story is that it is true for millions of people. Many are stuck in a job that drains their soul because it does not recognize one of the core things that makes us human: our creativity. See, the nature of work is changing. For most of human history, we relied on harnessing raw materials alongside physical human labor to create our wealth. From the trading of porcelain down the Silk Road to the steel that has become the foundation of our great cities, most of our early wealth was derived from harnessing these raw goods. Then the Industrial Revolution happened, and things got pretty crazy. Manufacturing jobs made us harness raw materials like we never did before and made us work harder than ever before. But out of that era came tremendous technological growth, which allowed for new types of work to arise. And that's where we are today. A post-industrial age where economic growth isn't just driven by goods and labor anymore, but also by our ideas. John Newbegin said, where oil was the primary fuel of the 20th century economy, creativity is the fuel of the 21st century. The creative class is both old and new. Some forms have been around for centuries, like dance, music, and art, while others have only been available in recent days thanks to the digital revolution, like YouTubing, podcasting, graphic design, software development, and the list goes on. In essence, the creative class is a group of people ranging across various industries whose economic function is to create new ideas, technology, and/or creative content. Now the question is, should you be part of the creative class? Well, here are some things to consider. Number 1, can you afford the risk? It's one thing to be creatively fulfilled through a hobby, and it's a whole other thing to earn a living out of it. Another way to look at it is that everyone can be creative, but not everyone should be a creative. Creative careers are usually high-risk, high-reward scenarios. It's why parents cringe at the idea of their child wanting to be the next Ed Sheeran. It is usually awfully tough to monetize your creativity. But the creative class covers a broad spectrum of professions, and some paths are less riskier than others. For example, if you are a software engineer, you're more likely to monetize that craft before monetizing, let's say, a YouTube channel. At the end of the day, if you can meet the needs of others through your creative work, you should be able to monetize it eventually. Just remember that the path you choose to pursue plays a big role in that. Number 2, does it fit your personality? If you're the type of person who withers when you aren't expressing yourself creatively, then you might find a home in the creative class. In fact, your personality may serve as an advantage to you. One of the personality traits in the Big 5 personality tests developed by renowned psychologist Lewis Goldberg is openness. This is a person's tendency to think in abstract and complex ways. Scoring high in openness usually means that you're inclined to think creatively, while scoring low means you're more concerned with practicality. One is not better than the other. It is a matter of how you're wired up. If creativity comes more naturally to you, then practicing it will feel more like play and not work. Now don't get me wrong, creativity is not as glamorous as it sounds. It's still hard work. But by being more creatively inclined, you're in a better position to at least enjoy the struggle, as they say. On the other hand, forcing yourself to go against the grain of your personality is a surefire way to end up hating what you do in the long run. Number 3. Are you living in a creative-friendly environment? If you're in a city or country that understands the value of creativity, then it makes sense that opportunities in the creative class will be more abundant. These places are more likely to invest in new technologies, see creative talent, and tend to have a higher tolerance for the open-minded, thus fostering an ecosystem where their creative class can grow and thrive. According to the Global Creative Index, here are the top 10 countries with the largest percentage of their population who make a livelihood by engaging in the creative process. You have Luxembourg at number 1 with 54%, Bermuda at 48%, Singapore and Switzerland after at 47%, Australia, Sweden, and Iceland tied at 45%, and the Netherlands, Canada, and the UK all tied up at 44%. The United States ranked 34th place at 33%, which, if you compare to the rest of the world, is still significantly high. This begs to ask the question, why do some countries value creativity more than others? A lot of it has to do with measuring the economic impact that creativity has, and South Korea does a great job at this, proudly stating that their film industry contributes about $14 billion a year to its economy. But unlike South Korea, some countries have failed to measure the impact the creative class has on their own economy. The Philippines, where I'm from, is a prime example. According to the British Council, data gathered on the impact of our creative economy is insufficient, thus making it difficult to convince our government to invest in fostering a more creative-friendly environment. Without this kind of data, the creative class will always come second to the more traditional sectors that are being tracked. On an individual scale, this contributes to the stifling of creative opportunities. On a national and perhaps even global scale, everyone misses out on the ideas and innovations that never had the chance to see the light of day. Now, if there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's this: don't be a Jeremy. If you're in a similar situation as our fictional friend Jeremy, dragging his feet to a job that he despises because life has somehow led him there, you need to change gears. If you can't afford the risk just yet, that is fine. Put one foot in the creative class and one foot in something more stable in the meantime, but don't stay stagnant. If your personality is urging you to be creatively fulfilled, then you may want to start listening to yourself and find an endeavor that flows more naturally to you. And whether you're living in a place that values creativity or not, it is important to remember that the barrier to entry to the creative class is much lower than ever before. Sometimes all you need is a smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection to start. Just like oil, our creative potential is often buried. You have to go digging for it. Don't be a Jeremy and become a fictional version of yourself, because we'd all be better off if the highlight of your day wasn't that post-lunch cigarette. Thank you guys for watching. I've added a link below to the Big 5 personality test that I mentioned, so you have a better idea of how creatively inclined you are, as well as a link that will give you 2 months free on Skillshare, a learning platform where you can find classes on all sorts of creative pursuits like photography, graphic design, animation, and much more. Thank you very much, and see you next time.